The views and opinions expressed in this channel are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views of our guests. The views and the opinions of the guest do not represent nor reflect the views and opinions of the Lockoutman channel, nor its host. Our guests' opinions are their own. This channel is for educational, entertainment, and informational purposes only, and utilizes fair use materials in accordance with applicable laws.
Ma'am, I didn't run out of gas for you, ma'am.
Back up away from my vehicle now.
Okay.
Back up all
right.
the way. All the way.
What is all the way,
I
ma'am?
don't trust you.
So check this out. I got a good one for you guys that's kind of crazy, but we're going to find out how crazy this little confrontation went. So imagine this, drivers. You're helping somebody else in the gig economy where I'm in. I do road service. I do food service. I do it all. Call me the jack of all trades. So let's say you get a gas run, right? And I had plenty of those, like crazy, okay? Fuel deliveries on road services is one of my least favorite things to do. But consider you got that, right? And you come up and you deliver it. You bring it, you're thinking everything is going to go kosher. But instead of trying to help that person out by putting the fuel in, they want to know what kind of fuel you brought and all sorts of things. But when you turn around and say, hey, I need to get compensated, and their credit card gets declined for $5, then it just escalates from there.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Today, I want to welcome my guy to the platform. He goes by the name of Gizmo. His TikTok is Gizmo. You can look him up and check out all of his road service content over there. Gizmo, my man, welcome to the platform, man. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
First thing first, Gizmo, how long you been in the road service game, man?
Ooh, I think as far as roadside goes, I'm going on 3 years now.
Okay.
So not that long. I'm still pretty fresh to the roadside aspect of it.
Okay. So what made you get into roadside?
Well, the locksmith side of things isn't, sustainable on its own, especially in a town like mine, especially with certain companies that are very, basically franchises in the area that usually get all the business because they've got the most recognized names.
Names like Papa Lock, Auto Rescue, stuff like that. I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Short story right quick. I started my roadside journey through Papa Lock. I actually locked my keys in my Ford Escort, and I called the phone. I had roadside assistance through my phone. They sent my guy, Big John, out there, and he came with the long rod and got me in the car. And I'm fascinated by it. Hey, bro, like, can I get in? Can I get in on this? He was like, what? We need somebody for the east side. I was like, oh, well, what do I do? How do I get on? Being that this was a franchise deal, it was a local owner guy. We just got him on the phone. John was like, hey, this guy's interested in doing some roadside, and the rest was history. So I kind of migrated into my own thing, kind of double dipped a little bit because I was building my business up pretty much off the back of theirs because I was paying attention to, at that time, the rates was good. Like, I was getting like close to like $80-$90 for a lockout, about $30-$40 for a fuel delivery, maybe about $50 for a tire change. So back then, around the 2000s, it was good money, but of course it got saturated. And then you got low jacks coming in here talking about, well, I can get in somebody's car for $10. Like, no, we ain't doing that.
Yeah.
We not doing that, bro. So yeah, that's how I got started. I got started through Papa Lock, so I'm familiar with the major franchise players out there. All right, man. Well, let's get to the situation, man. So can you walk us through what happened from the very beginning, and how did you first get the call or the fuel request?
So it came through a Giro, and I'm guessing it was Allstate that contracted through them. A Giro contacted me, and I got the information for it. It's sent out automatically, all the computer systems. And I looked at the info on the call. You know, it gives you the name, the type of vehicle, what service is requested, and their location. So I look at the location, and I'm like, that don't seem right, because she's in the back of a parking lot. It's a Walmart and a Sam's, and there's a gas station for the Sam's gas station in between them, and she's in the back of that parking lot. And then behind that, there's a Shell station, and down the street, there's a Chevron. So I'm like, this doesn't seem right. So I call her just to confirm the location, because sometimes it gets jumbled up because, you know, it's being passed through numerous different hands. So sometimes when it gets to me, it's the wrong location. I call her just to confirm the location. When I call her, she's really rude, really short. She tells me that she wants $10 of gas brought to her. I was like, well, I can't do that. I can only do $5 of gas. It's company policy, and this is the exact reason. What happened is the exact reason we have that policy.
Right.
So I told her I can only bring the $5 of gas, and she says, well, okay, whatever, just get here. And before I could even say anything, she hung up on me.
Bro, I know the feeling. I've been there many times. I cannot count how many times that I've been in situations with fuel. Again, at the intro, fuel runs is my least favorite runs. Now, she told you to bring about $10, right? Me, personally,
Yeah.
I only bring like 2 gallons. So you figure 2 gallons is where I'm at. Gas is like $3 a gallon. So I'd say I'll round it up to like $6 or $7, depending on where I'm getting the fuel from. So I tell them, hey, per company policy, like you said, I'm only allowed it 2 gallons of gas, and per your policy, you're only allowed it like 5 gallons at the most. But I told them it's subject to the company that's bringing the fuel. So somebody can bring you up to 5 gallons, and then somebody like me can only bring up to like 2. So yeah, I've been there. I know. So you say the young lady was like shortchanged with you just so you can come and help her out, and hung up the phone. That's crazy. All right, so when you pulled up, Gizmo, did you immediately feel something was off? Like, did you feel like that this wasn't going to be a normal job when you got out the car initially?
I knew it as soon as I talked to her on the phone. There were 3 separate phone calls. There was the original phone call to confirm the location, and I was going to see if my partner could bring her the $10 that she requested, because she really wanted that $10, and I saw why later on. And then when I was getting the gas, she had called me again. This is less than 10 minutes since I received the call and made the call the first time. So 3 calls within 10 minutes. Usually when that happens, something's going to be weird about the call. It doesn't matter if it's fuel delivery, doesn't matter if it's a lockout. If they call you multiple times and they're that impatient, something's going weird. When I got out the car at the jobs, or when I pulled up to her car, she was standing outside, which, you know, I understand. It's fine. Usually people are waiting inside their car, like in the shade, but she's just sitting there standing in the sun, and I could just tell by the look on her face that she was not having a good time. I just brushed it off because I understand. Sometimes you're in a stressful situation, you had a bad day, whatever. That's not here nor there for me. I'm there to give you the gas, get my compensation, and that's it.
All right, Gizmo, man, interesting story so far, man. I do appreciate you stepping up in the building. So thank you very much, man. Gizmo, where did you come up with that name, man? Was it something that you decided for your TikTok page, or is this something that carried with you throughout?
So Gizmo has been a nickname since high school, and everybody hears it and they all get the origins of the Gizmo wrong. They're thinking like Gizmo from the Gremlins movie, which, side note, I've actually never seen that movie because of my nickname, and I still refuse to watch it. It's actually after the villain on Teen Titans, the little bald kid who's got all the little mechanical doohickeys and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so everybody relates it to the Gremlin, but they used to call me that back in high school because I was the tech guy, and it just stuck with me throughout my entire life, really.
Okay. All right, so Gizmo, man, at what point did things started getting kind of tense or started going kind of south? Was it based off the phone call that you already spoke of, or when you actually got there and met in person?
So I'm a very forgiving person. That phone call was an immediate red flag to me, and it got me tense about the situation. But I decide I'm going to let it go, be as nice as possible, kill him with kindness. And then when I pulled up, she immediately was rude again. I have to take a photo of her ID for insurance, just to, I guess they have to make sure that it's the right person getting the gas, whatever. And I have to get the card information, run her card to get the payment for the gas. Usually I prefer doing cash because I don't like using Square for $5 transactions, but she said she didn't have cash. I was like, you know what, that's fine. I'll take the card this time. She refused to let me see her ID. She said, you can take a picture of it in my hand. She told me, let me see the gas first, which I thought was weird. Turned it into, I was like, are we in some kind of cartel deal right now over a fuel delivery? What's going on? She said something along the lines of, let me see what gas you got. And I didn't know if she meant like she wanted to open it up and like look at the gasoline, see if it was a good quality, or I don't know what these people think sometimes. But I just showed her that I had the gas can. I shook it so she could hear that there's gas in it sloshing around. And when I asked for her debit card, she said, what do you need from it? Which was yet another red flag.
Gizmo, man, this sounds like something that I myself would have just said, forget it. I would have got back in the car. I would have called up a Giro. I am very familiar with a Giro. They was called Cross Country before the name change. I would have called them up and I would have just took the show up fee, which was half the amount of what I would have got paid, and I would have just left her there. Like, okay, bye. But you mentioned the card. Like, what's up with that? She tried to yell the card information to you. What was your reaction in the moment? Did you feel like, was it aggressive, or do you think it was desperate? What was your feelings in that moment?
So the way she started out reading the number normally. It was weird that she wouldn't hand me the card. That set up a red flag for me, and I was like, okay, what is going on here? But, I just brush it off again. Usually by this point, I would have been gone. Like you said, I don't like dealing with people mistreating me. But things have been slow lately, and I don't want my contract with the Giro to be diminished in any way because of any refusals or anything. And I was like, you know what, it's just suffering for 2 minutes. But so when she started yelling the card numbers, she started reading them off normally and just started getting louder and louder and more aggressive, to the point where I was like, I think everybody that's getting gas at the gas station 500 feet away can hear you. And then she read some part that was weird on the card. So the card number was, obviously I'm not going to say the card number, but there was two 11s and a 9 in it. But she said like 911. And I was like, that's a weird thing to throw in there, because it wasn't even 911. It was a different combination. So she threw me off with that. And at that point, I started thinking, is this woman on drugs, or is she drunk? I don't know what's happening.
Now, she mentioned 911 before things really went left. And you just said that kind of threw you off. But do you feel like that was kind of a threat?
Honestly, it's hard to tell. I'm not somebody who feels threatened very easily. I grew up in New Orleans, ratting the streets back in the early days. So there's not much that really makes me feel threatened by anything or from anybody.
Okay.
I don't know if she was trying to threaten to call the cops. Obviously, I'm not scared of the cops. I ain't doing nothing wrong. I don't know if she was going to make some claim that I did something. I'm filming the whole thing, so it doesn't matter what she says.
Right. Okay. So when you ran the first card, and I can understand about Square, because I had the same program. Back then, the Square, they sent you out the little card reader that you can stick in the phone. At the time when the phone had headphones, had the headphone jack, and I was able to slide the card, which is very simple. I don't understand, unless the magnetic strip on the back of the card was messed up. I wouldn't understand why she just, if you didn't want me to handle the card, here, I'll hold the phone out and you can slide it yourself. What was the big deal about that? So when the first card declined, or the first number declined, and you told her that, what was her attitude like?
So I said it declined, and I proceeded to tell her, hey, your card declined. Do you maybe have it locked or anything like that? And she looked at me, and I think this is probably the time where her entire attitude out of the entire interaction, that moment was the least aggressive or annoying. She just looked at me and was like, I don't know what I have. And just like this flat, calm tone, which was like a mismatch from everything else in the interaction. And it just threw me for a loop. Like, it almost like she was saying, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if she was actually like lost mentally, if she was going through something, but then she decided that she was going to try another card. And right after that one instance, her attitude went back to being super negative, super aggressive. Another weird thing was that both cards that she gave me, and it's not necessarily weird on its own, but combined with everything else, it made it weird. The cards had 2 separate zip codes. She read a different zip code for each card, and I didn't even notice that until I was reviewing the footage and editing it. So once I saw that, I was like, okay, I don't know if these were even her cards at that point.
Now, sometimes people have their significant other cards or boyfriend, family members, not like that. Did you think that hearing the 2 different zip codes, did you kind of felt like maybe you stole the cards? Like, what was your thought process on that?
I did have that thought originally, but it wasn't something that was so substantial to where I could just be like, okay, these are stolen cards. I mean, combining that with the fact that she wouldn't let me see it, yeah, if it was a normal interaction and somebody did that, then I would think they were stolen cards. But given how weird she acted with everything else, it might just be part of the weirdness. That was one thing that a lot of people actually brought up on the video, saying that the cards are probably stolen. But I would think that if you stole cards, they probably either wouldn't get declined for $5 or you'd already be arrested.
Yeah, $5. That's diabolical to be embarrassed trying to get some fuel from my fuel delivery guy, and $5 ain't even going through on 2 cards, man. That's crazy. All right.
Yeah, and
that's wild.
After the second card declined, that's when she absolutely lost her mind.
I could tell that in the video that she really lost her rocker after that. Did you start the video before you came to her, or did you start the video like right when things started to go left?
So I started the video before I even pulled off of the main road, because I was like, I'm going to make sure that I have, without a doubt, that nobody that looks at this footage can look at it and be like, oh, this is altered in any way, shape, or form, or that I provoked her in any way. I wanted to make sure I had me pulling up to it and getting out of the car. Obviously, that part didn't make it online, but I just wanted to make sure that I had that documentation that, look, this was the very beginning of the interaction. Like, I did not provoke her in any way.
And I want to appreciate you for that, my guy. Because a lot of clip farming people like, hey, I just want to just get the viral part. No, let's see what led up to it, and let's see the aftermath from it. That's my biggest pet peeve with TikTok, and other pet peeves on top of that, because I'm not a fan of TikTok, but it is what it is now. But yeah, just people just clip farming just the viral part of the video that they know that's going to get them much more engagement from it. And you came in with a fresh take on it. Like, yeah, I'm going to take it from the top. We're going to do the middle, and then we're going to do the absolute end. Have you been in situations like that before her?
No, before her, the only one that really was a weird interaction so far, at least as far as content goes, was a guy that was just right up on me when I was unlocking his car. And when I asked him to step back, I was like, could you please step back, sir? I'm sorry, you're just getting a little close. he just decided to completely ignore it and was like, well, I'm just trying to learn so I don't have to call you next time. And, in my head, I'm like, all right, well, I can just leave. Excuse my language.
You good?
I can just leave, but, he had his wife, he had his kids, and I'm like, I'm not going to punish them because their dad's rude.
I had situations like that too, man. Everything that you describing, I've been there, done that, bro. I've been there, done that. I had people like being up over me, like I can actually feel their breath on my neck. Like, bro, can I get 6 feet, please? I tell them, hey, you want to do this? Hey, I'll step back. You still gonna have to pay me though, but I'll step back and let you do it, my guy. Yeah. So I know the feeling, man. I definitely been there and I definitely done that. Gizmo, man, thank you very much for showing up, man. I'm sitting here enjoying our conversation with each other. Guys, make sure you go over to Gizmo's page on TikTok. He definitely got some good content over there. He does, not only that he does roadside, but he also do homes, kitchens, you name it. If anything that has a lock, my guy, just like me, could get in there, man. So definitely go over there and check out his page. All right, Gizmo. So when she dialed 911 and when she said that they're on the way to come and get you, like what was going through your mind? And did you at that moment started to feel threatened? Now, I know you said you're not threatened by the cops, but did you feel some type of uneasiness right there?
It wasn't uneasiness so much as confusion because, the local PD has my number. I have gone out to open vehicles for them that they could not get open. So it's not like I'm a stranger to them, we know each other. They actually also know me from my high school days too. So it was just confusion as to, like, why would you call the police, then drive away? Because after that, right at the end of that clip, she drove away, got back on the main road, and went onto the interstate and pulled over.
Wait, pause. Wait.
Hold on.
Did you give her the fuel or?
No.
So, wait, I'm confused, Gizmo. You're supposed to be out of fuel.
I was too.
You're supposed to be out of
was too.
You're supposed to be out of fuel. How do you get in the car, start it up, and then try to chase, bro?
Yeah, that was the fun thing to explain to the Giro, that she proceeded to chase me down in the car that apparently had no gas in it.
Okay, so at some point you decided to leave. You kind of felt like, hey, this is a little bit too much for me. Let me just go ahead and bounce and just take the half a call. When you decided to do that, you got back in the car and you proceeded to pull off. She actually followed you? Like, what happened in that little interaction right there?
So after I pulled off, she was yelling and screaming at me. I heard her over my radio as I was driving away. I was like, I'm going to get away from the situation, go a couple of lanes down, park, and call my roadside contact, explain the situation. And while I was driving, I noticed that there was this horn that's blaring, and I don't think anything of it. So I pull over and get into a parking spot in the shade because it's southern Louisiana. It's 92 degrees. It's hot. Get in the shade, and my roadside contact answers. And then all of a sudden, I see her whipping around the back of my car, and I think you can hear it in the video. I'm like, oh my God, she's following me.
Mm-hmm.
And she almost hit the back of my car. I didn't realize it was her at first, because I didn't put two and two together. And, at that point, I still thought she was out of gas. But she almost hit the back end of my car, whipping around it, rolled her window down once she got towards the front of the car and started yelling something at me. And that's when that whole interaction happened, where she said that that she had called 911. Or she said, they're on their way to pick you up now. I said, who? And then she said 911. I was just like, why did you call 911? And then, she drove off and pulled over on the side of the interstate.
Right.
And I only know that part because she sent in another call.
Oh, wow. So let me get this straight. Whips around just to annoy you pretty much and try to intimidate you and saying, I called 911 because what? You didn't give her the fuel? That's what we talking about here? So did the police actually show up?
No, they didn't show up. I mean, I didn't really stay there long. They didn't show up. They never called me, which they have my number. They basically the only person in town that does this. And I never got a call from them. I don't think she actually called 911. I think she wanted me to think she did. I think it was more of a scare tactic or just a last pass to annoy me.
Right.
But
I agree. That whole spiel right there was like real crazy. Like looking back at it, Gizmo, what would you have done differently, if anything?
if it wasn't a contracted call, I would have just straight up left the second that she told me, let me see the gas. But I think I did everything, by the book. I handled everything a lot better than old me would have. I didn't lose my cool on her, which is something I have had to work on over the years. But I think I handled the situation as well as anybody would have. I think that the main improvements would be, on her end, honestly, just not dealing with people like that.
I commend you. I commend you for your professionalism, because anybody else in that position, it probably would have went downhill from there. During the recording, we saw it from your POV, but was she recording as well or no?
No, she never pulled her phone out and recorded that I know of. I mean, I don't think she would have had some kind of secret recording going on. I don't see why she would have a reason to, but I don't think she recorded any of the situation. And I mean, honestly, from my POV, you really see everything that happened anyways. It wouldn't change just because the camera was in her hands, or it's not going to change based off what parts of the clip you were playing. And that's how I know that I did everything right, because no matter how hard you try to edit that video, you cannot make me look like I antagonized her.
Yeah, you did your job, man. But from other people's point of view, they always like to put the narrative in their position. So I'm glad that you was able to get that out there, to get it documented. You did mention that you called a Giro and let them know the whole situation. What was their standpoint on everything?
They understood that I was not going out to that second call that she put in, because she put in another fuel delivery on the side of the interstate. And they were going to contact her, and I think their words were they were going to take her account into consideration. Basically, I think what happened is they canceled her roadside account.
Yeah, a lot of abuse. I tell you, I can't count how many times that I would get a fuel delivery call from the same person. Sometimes multiple times a day, sometimes multiple times a week. And you look at that like, bro, didn't you just call me yesterday? I look at the address and I come back and I see it. Hey, bro, you didn't get no fuel yesterday? Oh, no.
Exactly.
I ain't get paid, or I ain't get this, or I ain't get... It ain't none of your business. You're supposed to just bring the... Hey, listen. This time you only getting a gallon, my guy. You only getting enough to go to the gas station, which is on 140th in St. Clair. You're right down the street, bro. That's the whole point of fuel delivery. Emergency roadside assistance. Key word here is emergency, bro. This ain't for your convenience. This is emergency. You run out of gas by mistake because you missed a couple of stops, or you forgot to fuel up before you left work or before you go to work. Emergency, my guy. This ain't for your own personal fuel. So yeah, man, that's, like I said, it's crazy in the roadside game, man. Gizmo, man, again, talking to you, man, brings back so many memories. And I still got my roadside accounts, man. I got a Giro, I got Allstate, I got Roadmasters, Signature. It was called Signature back in the day, but I'm not sure what it's called now. They used to have majority of the T-Mobile accounts. A Giro used to have like the Verizon and the AT&T accounts. So, but they had more accounts back then. But yeah, man, this bringing up so many memories, man. What I want to ask you is, I mentioned to you about the money that I was making back in the day before it got crazy. What is it now in 2025, man? Like, what's the contract breakdown now for tire changes, lockouts, fuel deliveries, and I think ain't it one more? Let me see. Tire change, lockout, fuel delivery.
Jump start.
And jump starts. Yeah. So what's the breakdown now?
So since I'm in Louisiana, I'm really close to the home of Pop Lock, actually. So in my area, it has always been a lot lower than the rest of the country. So as far as like that fuel delivery, for example, that was $32. That was the contract price for it. If you call us directly, I can't name the company because I do work for somebody, and he does not like that I do social media and everything. But so if you call us directly, it's $79 for basically every service besides tire changes. We don't do tire changes, but it's $79 across the board, flat rate, unless it's after 5 or after 10. Then it's $89 and $109.
Okay. That's what's up. Now, you said as far as the contracted rate, that was flat rate for you, and you said it was 32 for the fuel. Is this still broken down into each individual categories, or is it 32 across the board?
It's still 32 across the board. That's just the way that our contracts worked out, and they still think they're paying too much.
Right.
Which is wild of them to think, but, it is what it is. It's for a Giro, it's 32 across the board. Or no, excuse me, a Giro is 30. Geico pays 32. And I believe Allstate pays 30 as well.
Oh, my God, you mentioned
basically
Geico.
All of our contracts, oh, you're good. All of our contracts are basically about $30.
Okay. Oh, my God, you mentioned Geico. Man, I had a time getting on with them. Woo, man. A Giro, Signature, Allstate, all three of them was easy to get on.
Hold on!
If you're rocking with this conversation, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Got a wild story of your own as a trucker, roadside responder, or just someone caught up in the madness? We want to hear it. Hit us at lockoutmenpodcastguest at gmail.com. Come through and share. Back to the interview.
In the beginning, in my area, in my market, it wasn't a lot of roadside services back then. It was just Pop Lock. That was the main one. Pop Lock and Auto Rescue. That was the main ones. Auto Rescue, if I'm not mistaken, I think a guy named Mike used to own Auto Rescue. If I can't remember, but the name Mike resonates with Auto Rescue back in the day. But between those two, those was the only two. Because like I said, I've risen from Pop Lock to start my own service. And across the board, it was double. Let me see. Like I said, tire changes was like 60 something. Lockouts, that was like 80. Fuel and jump starts was like 50. But that was at the time. But then, like I said, it got saturated. People started coming in from all over the places. You had people that like, oh, I can do this for like $15, $10. And the contractors was eating it up because you could tell by the call volume. Like, I used to get a gang of call volume throughout the whole day. I'd be busy. Like, when I started up my company, I was busy. Like, I had the whole east side locked down, bro. They didn't call me lockout men for nothing. It's supposed to be man, but the way I ran the business, like, one man was doing the job of 10. You feel me? So,
yep.
So I had the entire east side locked down. I had everything from Painesville, all the way to Cleveland, and a little bit of downtown Cleveland and the west side of Cleveland. I had it locked down, bro. But since the saturation begins, the calls started to going down, and I was getting, instead, let's just say, I'll just throw out a ballpark of 10. Let's say I was getting 10 calls a day. Then it went down to 8 calls a day. Then it went down to 5 calls a day. Then it went down. It came to the point that I had to call each place and like, yo, bro, what's going on? Oh, well, your contract shows that your amount is a little bit too high. If you want to renegotiate your contracts to get better call volumes, we can do that. Well, what's the least amount we talking about here? Well, in your area, the average is anywhere between $25 and $30, and we got one that literally do it for $15. How much would you do it for? Not for that. I said, especially the lockouts, because that's a liability situation right there. So a lot of times you can miss the wrong mechanism, you can break a rod and all like that, and they'll be looking at you for the compensation. So I said, I could probably come down to like 45. I said 40. I said, let's do 45 across the board and let's see what we can do from there. Now, when I came down to 45, considering that I was the best in the area, my call volume only went up slightly. It didn't go all the way back to where it was, but it was enough to sustain me until I figured out what was my next step, which was trucking. So yeah, man, it's brutal. It's brutal now because now you got the gig economy, and I know Allstate got like their app platform now. They sent me an email asking me if I want to do roadside for them on the independent contractor side, and I was like, whoa, we doing that now? So
yeah, and the thing is that the thing about the saturation of the market is you've got all these people who are only available sometimes. They don't do the 24 hours like I do. I'm on call, period, end of discussion. I take 2 days a week, and then somebody else covers for me, and then that's it. But these people come in, they're like, oh, I can do this for this amount of money. I can do it for 25. I can do it for 15. They have that mentality because they think, oh, this is a super easy thing to do. And you know what? It is, until you're getting woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning and have to drive 30 minutes to go and unlock somebody's car that they're locked out at a bar, or they're heading to work super early, or they were fishing, and whatever reason that they had to be out at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then you got to be up at 6 to go and do the work crowd. They get into it thinking that, oh, it's just a work whenever I want type deal, and that's where they get that little low number that they come up with, not realizing how much work actually goes into how much you actually lose being on call 24/7 like that.
Or how about this? Until they break something and now they're bankrupt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I was gonna say, because I cannot remember the model of it. It was a Mercedes, but it looked like a Jeep. It was one of those, and a little gig worker went out to try and open it, and he couldn't get it open, but he ended up ripping the handle off of the interior door. And they called me out. I ended up being able to get it open. But that little gig worker cannot afford that Mercedes. I can promise that.
Exactly. Gizmo, man, before we get on up out of here, and again, I do appreciate your time, man, and I know you're super busy, and you stepped up in the building to trap with me. Do you think the young lady, people like her, do you think they just trying to take advantage of the roadside assistance services?
Yeah, I do think that's what's happening, or that's what the case was. I don't think it happens all that often, because that is the first time it has really happened to me, at least like that. I'll have people that try to call every 2 or 3 days, but they're a minority. Most people use it for what it is, an emergency service. But I don't know if she had some kind of situation going on, her boyfriend or husband kicked her out or lost her job. I don't know what was going on. But I think she is a minority of cases, realistically.
So you out of Louisiana,
yeah,
man? What was you around during Katrina?
Oh, yeah. I was born and raised here, and Katrina was my first big hurricane.
Man, what was going on for you and your family at that time?
I was super lucky. I was insanely lucky. My house didn't flood.
Awesome.
Obviously, we lost power and everything like that, but my house didn't flood. We had evacuated and went to Mississippi, which was still in the path of the storm, but we went to my grandparents' house. My house had a little bit of wind damage, some shingles missing, but it was fine, which is insanely lucky because just one street over, they had 9 feet of water in some of the houses.
Wow.
It was an eye-opening experience of the power of Mother Nature.
Man, and we know that happened like super years ago. When did it actually happen? Do you still remember when it actually?
2005.
2005. 20 years ago.
Yep.
20 years. 20 years later, bro. Is Louisiana still feeling the remnants of Katrina, or do you feel that they fully built back up? And in your opinion, what was some of the major changes that they did since then?
Yeah, we definitely still feel the remnants of the storm. Some of the major changes involved the reinforcements of the levees. Now there is a much higher abandoned building rate, I guess, for lack of better phrasing. A lot of the buildings that were destroyed by the storm and deemed too costly to repair or tear down, they're still standing. Then we're talking about like 20-story buildings sometimes. There's still houses that are abandoned, empty lots that are overgrown where houses used to be. And I think that some of us still, when there's a powerful hurricane that's forecast to hit, think that we're still thinking, oh, is this going to be the next one? Like, is this going to be the one that takes my house? Because, I mean, sometimes literally there were houses that floated down the street. But yeah, I think it will affect New Orleans and the surrounding area for a long time before we don't see any remnants of it anymore.
Wow. And I know during that time of you guys trying to get your lives back together, I know it was some trying times, man, back then, 2005. That's crazy. But like I said, 20 years later, a little here and there. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I get it. Do you feel that the politicians, do you feel that they still care enough to try to get it back to when it was?
No. Our politicians are some of the worst in the country, in my opinion. I'm not going to get too deep into it.
Right.
There's some of the most crooked-ass politicians as well. And that includes people like the sheriffs in some areas, down to the mayors. It's a very backwards-ass place, and probably the highest rate of corruption in the U.S. It's the people themselves that have really made the difference in rebuilding. The government really didn't help us all that much. They provided some FEMA trailers, and that was about it.
Man, what a story. It is one thing to bring gas, it is another thing to get dragged into a whole situation you didn't sign up for. Big shout out to today's guest, Gizmo the Road, for pulling up and keeping it cool under pressure. If you've ever dealt with some roadside chaos or got a customer story that needs to be heard, email me at lockoutmenpodcastguest@gmail.com. Hit that like, comment, and subscribe, and as always, stay safe, stay aware, and keep that camera rolling on the Lockout Men Podcast.